Welcome to the 2 Months podcast presented by Boston Pizza in Edmonton at the South Common location. I'm your host, Joshua Marshall, and we have a very special guest joining us. We've been hoping to have her on for a while, so we finally were able to kind of connect and follow back on social media, kind of help that out. And she is one of the most decorated women's female hockey players in the game. In 2007, she was the first female hockey player to be inducted in Hockey Hall of Fame. In 2016, she was given the Order of Canada and won many gold medals with Team Canada at the Olympic stage in the World Hockey Championship stage as well. And you can find her on ESPN doing color commentary. We've seen her a lot with Hockey Night Canada, and she is a special advisor with the PWHL. We have Cassie Campbell-Pascall. Cassie, how's it going?
I'm good, Joshua. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, no, things are good. Enjoying a nice week off, but got some hockey games to cover for the podcast. So no, enjoying that a lot. I work in BC for 2 weeks and I come home for a week, but things are good. And how about you? I know things are very busy and you got a lot coming up on your plate here too as well.
Yeah, having lots of fun and working in hockey, which I feel pretty fortunate always. And we just had our first ever PWHL fantasy camp in Toronto, and we had over 40 participants that took part in that. And we hope to continue to make that bigger and better, and maybe have one in Montreal coming up soon. So, it's fun to kind of connect with some former teammates and also get an opportunity to meet some fans who've been a fan of the women's game for quite some time.
Yeah, it's definitely growing, and you see it a lot. I don't have any kids, but I have some family members that have has some daughters and stuff like that, and the growth that they're having even at the age of 19 to the youngest at 11. It's pretty cool to see, and we do a 3 stars of the month for our podcast to hand out awards for minor hockey kids in Edmonton that give back to the game, but in good community work. And we haven't announced our winners this month, but one of them is a female, and the game is growing great. Cassie, I'd like to get your thoughts on what you're kind of seeing at the PWHL level and in minor hockey too. I know you do a lot of minor hockey stuff in the Calgary area, but where are things at with you in terms of the minor hockey and the growth of the PWHL?
Yeah, well, I gotta give a shout out. I'm wearing my Calgary Fire GHC hat. I help coach a U15 AA team here in Calgary, and the kids will be excited that I'm wearing this, and just how good the game is. Yeah, coaching that team, just how talented these young women are, and how it's translating into great growth. And of course, the PWHL is helping now with that growth and giving these young girls an opportunity to dream to play professional hockey. But you look at the draft class that we just had, the Sarah Fillies and the Bilkas, and the list goes on and on of the rookies that we have in the league this year. And, they're not missing a beat. They're challenging our veterans, and they're fitting right in. So yeah, it's been really fun to watch the growth and how much it's grown since I first started playing. And, we owe that to players that have played a long time before me as well. We can't forget that generation. And but the talent is just tremendous. I love watching the PWHL games, just the parity in the league, and just the talent in the league, and just how great these women are at being ambassadors of the game.
Yeah. When you guys did the fantasy camp just recently here and you caught up with some old teammates, would you guys reminisce on some of the stories that you guys had when you guys kind of were playing and then seeing what you guys are able to do now and seeing like how great this is to see that you're having fantasy camps, there's a professional league and the potential for growth for more teams in the PWHL?
Yeah, without question. I mean, first and foremost, we have a lot of belly laughs, and we reminisce about the good times, and we don't necessarily talk about the outcome or who scored or what the score even was. We're talking about stories behind the scenes, and we still have that connection where you can laugh at the silliest things, and the outside world would be like, "What are you guys laughing at, and why is it so funny?" But that's kind of that in dressing room camaraderie that we've always had, and we just pick up right where we left off. And for me, I was at the game at Scotiabank Arena, and it was between New York and Toronto on Saturday. And I just sit there in the stands, and I'm just in awe of everything, watching the Jumbotron and over 19,000 fans in the building, and just how energetic the building is and how excited they are, in particular the little girls, but even little boys watching the game, and everyone's waving their towel. And the ceremony, the production that's put on by our staff, led by Burton Lee, and the game production, it's just tremendous. And I pinch myself, I can't believe we're at this point after so many years of, having leagues start up and fall apart. And, we still have a lot of work to do in the PWHL, but we've gotten off to such an amazing first year and a half. And we just got to continue that progress and continue to grow. But when we all get together, we're just amazed at everything. We're just so excited. We're so proud to have been, a little piece of it. And, I think we're absolutely thrilled with just how the current generation, really values and they know the importance of their ambassadorship of the game. And, they sign every autograph and they take the time to do it and they continue to elevate their play. And, they've really helped make this league, become what it is in such a short period of time.
Yeah, it's great to see. It's amazing to watch, and like you say, I'm in awe too. And like I know earlier in the week prior to that game, Austin Matthews was talking about maybe the crowd and Scotiabank could have been a bit more lively on the one play, and then you see that the enthusiasm that it has there, and the takeover tour what it has. But you can almost say the takeover tour doesn't happen without the support that it has been in the six cities that it is. Can you talk about the process of selecting those six cities, and then maybe down the road when expansion could be on the docket for you guys as well?
Yeah, I think we've had a tremendous amount of interest in areas that want to have a game first and foremost. We've also had a tremendous amount of interest in areas that want a team. With the takeover tour coming out west, we saw a lot of support in Denver and Seattle and Vancouver and up and coming, Family Day weekend in Edmonton. It sold out in 2 or 3 days. So the interest is no question it's there, and I think we're always looking at ways to improve as a league. We're always looking at ways to continue to grow as a business. And so, we're doing our due diligence behind the scenes. And, whether expansion happens or not, that's a decision that's going to be made above me, but it's definitely a priority. It's definitely something people have been talking about. Season one was a month old and, people were talking about expansion already. So, just to have that interest is really tremendous. It shows just, how important our league has become and how many people are watching it and how many people see it as a viable option. So, whether expansion comes or not in the next year or two, I think that's still to be determined. But I think as a league and a hockey ops and a business ops, we'll be prepared for when that time comes. And we just have such a tremendous group of staff people who are just so caring about the game. They don't care about getting credit, and they work so hard behind the scenes. And, I'm just proud to be a part-time role within that group and get an opportunity to be amongst these people on a regular basis through our Zoom calls and our different meetings. So the whole thing has just been surreal to me, and I can't wait to continue to see it grow and grow.
Yeah. It's funny, Cassie. Yesterday, before I flew back home, we were at work, and with all of us like construction workers in a lunchroom, we're talking about the PWHL, and there's about 30, 40 of us in the lunchroom. And one of the good conversations that came up and some of the guys were like, you got to ask her if there's any possible way that you think maybe you guys would partner with the NHL in terms of going to the Globe Series and going overseas. And, when we see like, Colorado or Ottawa go over there and play in Germany or whatnot, would the PWHL be, on that docket too, and maybe a double header kind of situation? Is that something you think could be a possibility, or is it maybe just keep taking care of what's happening here in North America, and then down the road that could be a possibility?
Yeah, I think the NHL relationship, it's led by Stan Kasten and he's in constant communication with them. And, they've done a lot of little things that are big things behind the scenes. They help us with our player safety group. And, we recently had Ryan Getzlaff come and speak to our teams at mini camps prior to the season starting. And, he's part of the NHL player safety group. So, just the relationship continues to build. And, I know there's a lot of NHL owners that want a team. And, those are discussions that continue to be ongoing. And, I think that relationship with our league and the NHL, we get an opportunity to learn from them. We get an opportunity to pick their brain on different things, but we also have the ability to do what we feel is right for the PWHL, and we can be innovative and we can create, no escape rules and jailbreak rules and different things, and we can have fun with it. And, speaking of Austin Matthews, like you were earlier, I know the NHL player survey, a lot of the guys were talking about the no escape rule and how that would be something they think would be fun to implement in the NHL. So, as much as they give to us and help us and support us, I also think they're watching us as well, and the things that we're doing, and talking internally about potentially implementing some of those things. So it's a relationship that continues to grow. I think it's an important relationship. And I know there are a lot of NHL owners that definitely want a PWHL team.
Yeah, it would be see that growth is moving forward pretty quick, and that interest is super strong to kind of see. And talk about the game last night and Claire Thompson kind of having that performance on her birthday, one of the stars of the game. And speak about what you saw out of her game last night, and what you're seeing from some of the other names that we might not be giving a lot of talk to.
Yeah, well, with Claire Thompson, just an incredible person, an incredible individual, and taking some time off to go to medical school, and just picking up right where she left off, and didn't play a ton the last couple of years. So to see her have the performance that she's able to have, not only on her birthday, but she's had a tremendous start to the season, and getting an opportunity to play, for the Walter Cup champions. And she's just a great person off the ice, really intellectual. Her hockey IQ is off the charts. But you can see now getting an opportunity to be back playing full-time hockey. She's a tremendous player. She's going to be a real pillar on the national program heading into the Olympic year. And it's fun, to watch her interview post-game, and she's talking about her mom sending a picture of her when she was 6 years old with a hockey cake. And just she has such great perspective about the game, and understands her role in the game. But to watch her skate, I think her skating ability is just tremendous, and her shot, the goals that she was able to score last night. She's an offensive defenseman through and through, but even her defensive game has gotten better and better over the years. And again, just fitting in seamlessly with a great team that has struggled with injuries and struggled with illness, and she's been a big part of their success here early.
Yeah, it was a performance, and like you said, that interview was awesome to see. Let's go to some minor hockey talk here. The growth of minor hockey in the Calgary area, and when you go to tournaments and stuff like that. Can you talk about how great that is, and how rewarding and cool is it to kind of get back to the game that gave you so much too, and helping the knowledge that you've learned from others and yourself to pass that forward, and give that back to the young girls that are playing right now.
Yeah, I've recently taken some things off my plate, which was necessary as I've gotten a little bit older here over the last couple of years. And but it's also allowed me the opportunity to do some of more of these grassroots programs, and obviously coaching my daughter's team. I mean, those are moments that you'll never get back, and time you'll never get back. So just spending that time with her on the buses, and on the bench, and in practices, and with her teammates, that's been my number one priority over this last couple of years. And I recently did some, coaching clinics for Hockey Calgary. And I was at a girls hockey day for a local community association, and those are the events that I really love doing the most. And so getting an opportunity to have more time to do those has been a big part of why I've stepped back in so many other areas. And slowing down as you get above 50 is, you'll get this, Joshua, as you get older. You kind of have to slow down. But getting more time for myself, getting more time for those grassroots initiatives in the game. Obviously my role with the PWHL, they're keeping me busy in a part-time capacity. And it's kind of nice, just working for one major network. I was doing two for such a long time, and it was a grind from a travel perspective. And so making those decisions and leaving Hockey Night in Canada were tough and scary, but definitely the right decision for me and my family. And I'm where I'm at right now, being able to give back to the grassroots side of the game a little bit more, and that's where my passion lies. And but the big thing is just being able to spend more quality time with my daughter. I think not missing as many games and practices like I did in the past, and it's been a huge priority for me. And but to watch the game grow, you go to these tournaments, and I had 5 teams that I played against in the greater Toronto area where I was growing up. And, now we have teams from all over the country coming to these tournaments. And I think there's, 16 teams in Alberta alone in my daughter's division that we just didn't have that. So the talent is tremendous at such a young age, and they watch the PWHL. We have those conversations, and it's been great for them to be able to see their role models on a regular basis.
Yeah. Coaching's fun, and been able to do it a little bit the last couple of years. It's cool to kind of to give back, and I think what you guys are doing there is awesome. And they're seeing a lot more players coming out of Alberta too. It's not like there wasn't, but they're especially the Calgary area. You're seeing a lot of kids coming out of that area too, in terms of being successful and giving back to the game. You talked about ESPN there. How's that, going into year 4 there? How has it been there? You kind of talked a bit that, having to not juggle two major networks, but the transition over to ESPN and the great team that you guys have there as well.
Yeah, when I first got the call, I was like, ESPN, do you have the right number? And it, just I think I'm not sure if it's every Canadian broadcaster's dream, to go to US network, but it's definitely a great opportunity. And it's been interesting for me. A lot of our production side of things, they're used to producing football and basketball. So it's been an adjustment for them to continue to learn and grow within the game of hockey. But it's a great group of people. It's kind of brought me back a little bit to when I first started broadcasting, and you'd have a first time producer here in Canada doing women's hockey, and you wouldn't have necessarily all the bells and whistles like Hockey Night in Canada does, but it's challenged me in that sense that you kind of have to think outside the box of the way we've always done things traditionally here. And when you work with Hockey Night in Canada, you work with the best of the best. You have all the camera angles, you don't miss anything. And so it's challenged me as a broadcaster. Things are just done a little bit differently. But my bosses, have been tremendous, supported me. If I've needed time off, they accommodate it. And it's for me, you get so used to doing the Canadian teams all the time, which of course I love, but I get to do different teams. I've covered Minnesota recently, and Utah I've covered, and those are teams that normally you wouldn't get an opportunity to do up here with Hockey Night in Canada. So yeah, I just think it's been refreshing and an opportunity to get to pick those coaches' brains and to see players that you normally wouldn't see on a regular basis and catch up. And it's been a great experience now, year 4 with ESPN, and yeah, I hope it keeps going, and off to do 2 games next week. I think what do I have? I have Dallas at Anaheim and then Toronto at Seattle. So 2 great games to look forward to.
Yeah, and we'll see if Heiskanen's in the lineup. I guess they took that hit last night, so on ESPN as well when they played Vegas. But we'll see if the injury is a long-term injury or not. I haven't seen anything today, but we saw the Capitals and the Flames last night. Are when we saw what Ovechkin's been able to do, Cassie, and it's remarkable. It's great to see, but also what that coaching staff has done too, and Spencer Carberry, Mitch Love, and the rest of the group there. Are you shocked to see kind of the season what they had last year to where they are now this year? At least they had a lot of really good players at the end of the day too. But what's your thoughts on kind of what the Caps have been able to do so far this season?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Joshua, I don't know if you can hear all the banging in behind, but I'm getting my carpets all replaced at my house, so it's a little bit noisy around here. So I apologize about that. But yeah, I think if you're looking at potential coach of the year candidates, if Calgary and Washington are able to make the playoffs, I think both those coaches have to be considered. I don't think anyone anticipated Calgary sort of sitting in a playoff spot at this point, and definitely with Washington, I think no one saw this coming. Logan Thompson is really solidified that and had been tremendous this year for them. I think Ovechkin has been rejuvenated in the sense that, he has something that, in the latter part of his career that, he's going for. And I think the whole team has kind of been galvanized by that and, played maybe a little bit more above their heads than what we anticipated at the start of the season. So they've got some great young talent and, a lot of skill. And, it's been a great surprise for sure. I would say Washington. And then, obviously Vancouver, what's happening there. I don't think anyone anticipated them having to deal with the things that they're dealing with this year after having such a great season last year. So, you make these predictions at the start of the year, but the games have to be played. And Washington definitely has been a huge surprise, but it's kind of fun to see a market like that. And, and to watch, Ovechkin going for Wayne Gretzky's record, it has definitely been, fun and entertaining for the fans as well.
Yeah. We see the Flames a lot up close and personal, you and I, in terms of, being there, and we cover the team with our podcast. Um, and hey, at the end of the day, like mental health is big importance to me. And if it wasn't for that Flames organization, I wouldn't be here today because what they've done to help me out. So I'll be honest, I'm a bit biased in terms of what they can do, and when I call their report on their games. But is there something that you see in this team at the point that they're at in the season that just surprises you in terms? Obviously, Dustin Wolf's season's really good, but is there just something different about this team maybe before? And I know Michael Backlund said at the start of the year, this team could probably emulate the team that was from 2014-15 when they were the comeback Flames and the find away Flames. But is there something with this group and the coaching staff that you're able to kind of pinpoint in terms of being like, that's probably why they're in the position that they're in right now?
Well, I guess people would say I'm a little bit biased too, because my husband works for the team as the
Exactly.
vice president of hockey ops, but I try to be unbiased when I'm doing my job. I think with the Flames, everyone told them at the beginning of the year that they weren't even going to have a chance to be in the playoffs. And, they seem to be galvanized by that. And, having Huberdeau playing better hockey, the best hockey in a Flames uniform, I think has really helped. I think you've also got to look at the AHL roster and how many of those guys have, come up and been a huge part of what's been going on with the Flames. You think of Pelche, who started down there, and he's come up and had an impact. Even Coronado, I think the expectation was that maybe he'd spend another year in the AHL, and he's had an impact. And even just being able to play well through injuries, Connor Zary, that's a huge injury for the Flames. He was playing so well and really helps them solidify the center position. And other guys have just, constantly stepped up. And you look at Karen's, I think that's been a great story. Clark Bishop comes up and scores. So I think the impact that the Wranglers have had when those guys have been given an opportunity have been huge. And Dustin Wolf, there was a competition right from day one who was going to be the number one goaltender between him and Vladar. And it was an open competition. And Dustin Wolf has, I think somewhat solidified that position as of late. And I think it's a healthy competition between him and Vladar. And, defensively overall, their game, it's been really simplified. And, obviously you have the Uyghurs and the Andersons on the back end, but everyone else back there has to play a pretty simple game, and they've done that and they've bought into their roles. When Ryan Huska makes changes and tweaks to the lines, all the guys seem to buy in. And and they've got characters like Ryan Lomberg. Don't underestimate that signing of a guy that comes back to the organization, but he comes back as a winner and comes back understanding his role, and how that kind of trickles through the rest of the lineup, and the character guy that he is and how he plays the game. So there's been a lot of positives, but they still have a lot of work left to do to maintain and be in that wild card spot, which is probably where they'll end up if they have that opportunity to make the playoffs at the end of the season. So just different guys stepping up at different times, but overall I think playing a real connected game, a real simple game, and understanding that that's the way they have to play in order to be successful.
Yeah, it's just talking to some of the players, even talking to Sam Hodzik at the start of the year, and just him just saying like the culture is just it's by far the best he's ever really been around. And it's not to take a shot at where he was at the junior level. It's just, coming in and the same vibe you get at the AHL level, you get at the NHL level. And look at Tyson Berry, didn't play in up until, November 12th was his last game, and plays last night, and he fits in just like he hasn't missed a beat. And it's like you said earlier, it's just when it's your time to get up and get your number called, you're showing up at that time to provide an impact to your team. It's cool to see. Great words there. We'll get your thoughts before you get out on the Rantanen trade, the three-way trade there in terms of do you think this will kind of spark some more interest, in some of the bigger players getting moved before the deadline, or is just more of the way the game's going? Certain teams, I know Elliot Freeman, a former colleague of yours, has talked about, this cap could get up to 100 million, so maybe teams aren't going to spend that. And Colorado does have a rich owner, but where are you at with that trade, and how impactful is that for the Carolina Hurricanes going forward, or would they be the front runner out east too?
Yeah, well, he's an incredible player. And obviously, when you talk Colorado Avalanche, everyone talks about McKinnon and McCarr probably first, but man, he's really a close second or third and, just a beast and such a big body with a tremendous amount of skill. And, to me, I think the biggest impact this trade has is that it obviously doesn't look like the Colorado Avalanche are going to sign him. So other teams are like, okay, maybe we're going to sign him at free agency. And do we have the cap room and do we have the space? I think this is a guy that 32 teams want on their team. So, um, I was a little miffed as to why Chicago got involved and got as little as they did. But at the same time, I think they were able to not get rid of a guy like Taylor Hall. That sounds a little negative, but I don't know if there was a ton of suitors for a guy like that who has gone through some injuries and not playing, at the best of his capability. And but Carolina fans, you're gonna love Rantanen if you don't already. I mean, he's just as he adjusts to this trade and the shock of it, I think he's gonna get better and better. And this trade has definitely put them. They were already a Stanley Cup favorite, but I think it's even push them over that edge and he's going to bring just a tremendous amount to them and be such a playoff performer. So, I think people talking about Mitch Marner and what that means for him now, how much is he going to sign for in Toronto if he signs, or does this mean he gets traded? There's just so many things that it was such a wow trade, and especially at the time that it happened when JT Miller was available and potentially Elias Pettersson was available in Vancouver. And but that's a guy that you want on your team. And if you can make that trade, I think you've got, 32 GMs that want to do it.
Yeah. We'll finish up on Drew Doughty here. He returns to the lineup, makes his season debut, year 17 for him. It looks like he'll probably have about 6 games of runway here to see if he replaces Perchangelo on the back end or if that's Mackenzie Weegar. I like Uyghur's comments. I'm ready to cancel my Mexico trip at any time. But so love that. But we all know, and you've seen Drew Doughty up close throughout his whole career. What's your thoughts on what maybe he could add in these 6 games to getting it maybe in that slot? If not, is there another name that you would be intrigued to see kind of replace Perchangel on the back end?
Yeah, I think if you're the Hockey Canada management, you're going to give Drew Doughty as long as it takes to showcase what he's got when he comes back. And you just never know coming off the injury that he's come off where his speed's going to be, his fitness and that type of thing. But I personally think he's the front runner, barring any sort of drastic decline here coming back from injury. I really think he's the front runner just with his experience with Team Canada in the past, his leadership, his competitiveness, just his all around game, I think is so important for them. And, Mackenzie Weegar, he was the captain of that world championship team not too long ago, had an outstanding tournament, had an outstanding season last year. It hasn't necessarily gone the same way this year, and not that he's played bad, but it hasn't necessarily gone the same way. So, not that he's not in the conversation, but I do think if you're Hockey Canada management, Drew Doughty, you're thinking, okay, let's see what he brings here in this next, week and a half. And they can make their decision. They'd ideally love to have everyone involved and be at camp for that February 9th, 10th, starting time. So but I think Drew Doughty is the front runner here, and it just depends on how he looks coming back from injury.
Yeah, very well said. And Cassie, I really appreciate the time you took this afternoon with us, and continued success along the way here. And hopefully you get some rest, and hopefully the renovation that's going on in your house isn't takes on too long. But
Yeah, I appreciate the time too, Joshua. Thanks for having me on.
thank you so much. Have a good one.
Cheers.